Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are having an absolutely wonderful Tuesday. Today, we're going to be introducing hemispheres. We briefly talked about this during our Where I Live project, but today we're going to go a little bit more in depth on hemispheres. So, we've already talked about map skills, we've talked about continents and oceans. Now, we're going to break it up a little larger. So, knowing which hemisphere we live on is the first step in determining where we live on planet Earth. So, we have our large planet Earth. We take our hemispheres, and this helps cut us into different chunks on the hemisphere or on the Earth. From there, we go a little bit smaller into our continents or oceans. And after that is when we move down into our countries. But today we're going to be focusing more on hemispheres. So, the shaded section for each photo is which region or hemisphere is being determined. So, if you take a look at the top two photos, they're both split down the middle horizontally. And when we split it right there at the equator, we see that the northern hemisphere is shown and the southern hemisphere is shown. So these, when we split it long ways, top and bottom, with our equator cutting it in half down the middle, we have our northern hemisphere and our southern hemisphere. The other way that we can cut our globe is up and down, so in the opposite direction, okay, vertically. This is called the prime meridian. The prime meridian, I apologize, cuts us north to south, but it shades left and right, giving us our western hemisphere and our eastern hemisphere. So you can see in both of these that here's North America where we live. So we are in the north and on the west. So because we're in both, that puts us in the northwestern hemisphere. Okay? So this one goes a little bit more in depth on our eastern and western. The eastern and western hemisphere is divided by our prime meridian. The prime meridian actually runs north to south because this would be the north, this is the south, but it splits it east and west. So east and west. Okay. Bonus question. What map feature do you notice on this particular map? What map feature do you notice on this particular map? Down in the corner. This is a map scale. So a lot of you had some trouble with our map scales, knowing the difference between that, our lines of latitude, our lines of longitude, and our legend. Our scale, again, is a small version that shows distance. So here is an example of a scale on our map. So our prime meridian cuts east and west. We also have our equator that cuts right down the middle. This splits it north and south. Okay, so the prime meridian cuts east to west, but it splits it into your northern and your southern hemisphere. Can you spot our continent on our map? Right up here at the top, that northern hemisphere again. So we've got our western, here's North America, right? And our northern, here's North America again. So we live in the northwestern hemisphere. So which hemisphere do we live on? Which we've already said multiple times because I want to make sure you understand that we live in two different hemispheres. Based on the divider which you're looking at, whether it's the prime meridian or the equator, your answer could change. So if I split it with my prime meridian, then we're going to see that we live on the western hemisphere. Okay. But if I split it using my equator, you see that we live in the northern hemisphere. So we actually live on both. We can see that way we can say we live on the north and western hemispheres. Okay. So that's all I have for you guys today for hemispheres. Just remember that hemispheres can be split in 4 different places, and that we live specifically in the northwestern hemisphere. We're divided by our equator, which runs side to side, and our prime meridian, which runs up and down. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you later.